The Mad Titan Thanos has had one of the most interesting character arcs in the MCU. He started off as a purple guy with a ruffled chin sitting in a floating chair and barking orders at aliens, and eventually became a genocidal maniac who single-handedly wiped out half of all life in the universe. Talk about going from 0 to 100 real quick. While he's made his fair share of enemies and a very small amount of friends, we decided to take a look at who Thanos hasn't fought before. And there's one hero on that list who may surprise you. In the Avengers movies, so many characters who've never interacted before finally get to meet each other face to face. It's one of the things we love about these massive crossover films. In fact, it happens so often that Redditor Conjure Wolf actually made a chart showing who has and hasn't met in the MCU. Thanos doesn't strike us as a social butterfly, but you'd be surprised at the amount of important characters he's met throughout his time in the MCU. And like most characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thanos has fought pretty much all of them the first time he saw them. It's just a tradition in superhero movies at this point. Anyway, in the Battle of Wakanda alone, Thanos fought Bruce Banner, Steve Rogers twice, T'Challa, Sam Wilson, Rhodey, Bucky Barnes, Okoye, Black Widow, Groot, Scarlet Witch, Vision, who really didn't do much other than get his soul ripped from his body, and the God of Thunder Thor. Yeah, that's a whole lot of fighting. But there's one hero who was at that battle and didn't engage with the Mad Titan, Rocket Raccoon. Everyone loves Rocket Raccoon, and for good reason. He's the kind of guy to ask you to get him a fork or a prosthetic leg when he needs a spoon, just to laugh at you. He's like a court jester, who's also a genetically modified creature capable of creating incredibly powerful weapons. So nothing like a court jester at all. Now, I definitely don't think Thanos and Rocket would have been the best of friends if they met each other at the Battle of Wakanda. In fact, Thanos would most likely have launched Rocket, pun intended, into a different hidden country with a touch of a finger. He's definitely that powerful, but during the Battle of Wakanda in Infinity War, well, I started my own investigation board. You know, the one with all those pictures, strings, and pins, and after months of research, I think I may have figured it all out. But first, let's get into the psyche of Rocket and try to understand why he would avoid confronting the giant purple menace. Rocket may seem all about having fun and having a laugh, even at the expense of others, but as we figured out in Endgame, that's all just a facade because there's so much sadness inside that adorable talking raccoon. He's been an outcast all his life and has been working as a freelance criminal because, well, that's all he knows. Then he meets the Avengers and slowly but surely learns how to use those skills he developed for good. He's also a father figure to the cutest little tree in the galaxy, Groot, and we all know fatherhood changes people, since they now have to think of their family as a whole instead of just themselves. Now that I've painted a Bob Ross-esque picture of Rocket's psyche, it's time to get into the nitty-gritty and talk about why he decided to avoid Thanos. For starters, it may be possible that Rocket simply didn't hear Steve Rogers' call to action during the Battle of Wakanda. I know, that's such a boring reason as to why Rocket avoided Thanos like the plague, but just hear me out. There were Outriders and Wakandan warriors all over the battlefield, so you could just imagine how loud it must have been. All the screaming and the sound of steel on steel would be enough for anyone to grab their earplugs. Plus, if Rocket wasn't connected to the Avengers' communication systems, which is a very real possibility, then there's no way he would have known what the plan was. He has many skills, but telepathy is not one of them. When you think about it, this also explains why Thor was late to the fight. But that's a video for another time. I have no time for you, Mr. God of Thunder. Sorry. Anyway, if this is all true, then you definitely can't blame Rocket for missing out on all the fun. Well, we wouldn't call it fun, but Rocket probably would. He didn't know what was happening, so he didn't show up. It makes perfect sense and must mean there wasn't anything shady going on. Surely our favorite trash panda did absolutely nothing wrong. But what if there was more to this missed encounter than meets the eye? What if Rocket purposefully avoided Thanos? I definitely wouldn't put it past him. In fact, I'd expect Rocket to do something as calculated as that. But that can't be the reason. It just can't be. Another possibility is that Rocket knew his advanced weaponry would be useless against Thanos, so he decided to stay away from the mean purple giant. Rocket is probably the smartest of his kind, but we have no confirmation as to whether that's true or not. Anyway, let's just say he's the smartest of his kind for argument's sake. He's still not nearly as smart as the Mad Titan. There's just so much brain that Thanos could fit into that big old noggin of his, so a little creature like Rocket can't be nearly as intelligent. Trust us, we know how Titan and enhanced raccoon brains work. Thanos is a supremely intelligent being who is a scholar in his younger years and one of the smartest from his home planet of Titan. He could create weapons that would put Rockets to shame. If Rocket knew his weapons would be useless against Thanos, it makes sense for him to avoid the confrontation altogether. There's no need to introduce yourself to a warlord just to say hi. It's just not worth it. It's also possible that this has nothing to do with Rocket's weapons, and he's just scared of Thanos. Let's be honest, the size difference between Rocket and Thanos is pretty big. The raccoon has to practically break his neck just to look at Thanos in the face for how much taller he is. The Mad Titan is big enough to make the world's strongest men run away in fear, so imagine how Rocket must have felt just by looking at him. The thing is, Rocket isn't easily intimidated, and he's not one to back down from a fight. So we doubt he was shaking in his boots so bad that he couldn't even look at Thanos. It's just not in his character to do something like that. Rocket ain't no coward. Speaking of not being a coward, if you haven't already, subscribe to CBR and don't forget to turn on notifications so we can pull a Rocket and find a way to avoid the YouTube algorithm altogether. Oh, and if you're on mobile, make sure you turn on your notifications in the YouTube settings. Now, back to the video! Just when I thought my investigation hit a dead end, I had a eureka moment, and all it took was some comments Rocket Raccoon's voice actor Bradley Cooper made in an interview with BBC Radio 1. When talking about Thanos and his actions, Cooper said, "Yeah, it was amazing. That's why that movie works. Thanos is what a character. The fact that he made you kind of go like, he's got a point, right? He's got a point." And a part of me's like, I'm glad he's sitting there on his chair with the sun coming down. I mean, I hate that half the world's dead, but there's a part of me that's like, he succeeded. I don't know what that says about me. Wait a minute, did he just indirectly say he's proud of the fact that Thanos succeeded? What the heck, Bradley Cooper? We thought you were a chill dude, and then you say something like that? Now you might be going, what in the world does this have to do with Rocket Raccoon not meeting Thanos? Well, that's a great question, and one we obviously have the answer to. To understand how they're related, we now have to get into the psyche of one Bradley Cooper. Some actors, to really get a feel for their character and who they are, will still act as that character even when they're not on set. It's a way for them to really become one with their character, and that passion comes through on screen, even when they're just voice acting the character. If Bradley Cooper was employing this strategy and acted as if he was still Rocket off-screen, then that means Rocket Raccoon must be a Thanos sympathizer. Now, we know you're probably laughing at us for even saying it, but if you actually sit down and think about it, it's a totally plausible theory. Rocket wouldn't have attacked Thanos if he agreed with his vision for the future of the universe. Sure, maybe Rocket thought that eradicating half of the population was the wrong choice and that doubling the amount of resources would have been a better one, but it's the same result in the end. Just with many more lives lost. Thanos is an evil villain, so of course he'll take the more sinister option out of the two. It's possible that what Rocket Raccoon didn't expect was for his precious Groot to be among those lost in the snap. Sure, he knew there was a 50% chance that Groot would fade to black, but maybe he was willing to take that 50-50 chance before the snap, only to regret it instantly. The saddest thing about the whole Rocket and Groot interaction at the end of Infinity War was that when Groot was about to disintegrate, his final "I am Groot" actually translated to Dad, as confirmed by Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn, which means he called Rocket his daddy right before he turned to dust in the wind. Like we said earlier, Rocket was considered a father figure to Groot and treated little baby Groot like he was his own son. The pain of losing someone so close to him may have been enough for Rocket to stand up and realize that Thanos was actually wrong this whole time. So many people around the universe are going to be suffering after losing the ones they love out of nowhere from the snap. And that's something no being, raccoon or not, should have to put up with. It lit a fire under Rocket and helped him turn his life around. He went from a selfish freelance criminal to a vital member of the Avengers who helped recover the Reality Stone with Thor to help bring Groot, as well as everyone else who was lost in the snap, back. But that wasn't enough for Rocket, as he also helped the Avengers assemble to take on Thanos and his army, despite still never meeting Thanos face to face. Rocket may have been a Thanos sympathizer at one point, but after losing the most important person in his life at the hands of the Mad Titan, he changed his tune and vowed revenge on Thanos, no matter the cost. Sometimes you don't know what you've got till it's gone, which is a lesson that Rocket may have had to learn the hard way. Whatever the case may be, we know there's more to Rocket Raccoon never encountering Thanos than simply not hearing Steve Rogers' call to action. Well, at least we hope there's more to it than that. Despite Rocket turning things around and becoming a good friend to heroes like Thor, it's possible that he may have initially supported Thanos. If this is all true, then we may have just uncovered Rocket Raccoon's true sinister nature. But it's also possible that he simply didn't hear Captain America's call to action and he hated Thanos from day one, just like we've been led to believe. At the end of the day, what you choose to believe is up to you. We're not gonna force you into anything, but the Thanos sympathizer theory is more interesting, so we hope you choose that one, please. And that is what we think about the fact that Rocket Raccoon has never met Thanos directly in the MCU. And seeing as he's dead, probably never will. What do you think about all this? Do you agree with us or are we completely off base? Let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. As always, thanks for watching.